Hello everyone, welcome back to the Filta. I'm Steve.
I'm Bootsy.
And we've got a very special guest on the show for you this week, guys. Chris Chance is a martial artist, author and former Royal Engineer who served 12 years as a combat engineer. During his 12 years in the British Army, he worked in engineer intelligence with the British Army on the Rhine and as an intelligence operator in Northern Ireland. He was an anti-interrogation instructor, a small arms school corps weapons instructor and an explosives demolition expert.
After leaving the army, Chris and his wife moved to the Costa del Sol to set up a martial arts camp, teaching martial arts obviously. Didn't go too well to plan, and he ended up being a drugs runner, moving large amounts of hashish weed to the UK from Spain, and he ended up in one of the most notorious at the time jails in Europe called Carabanchel.
Aye. Chris then moved back to England after serving a serious amount of time in prison, and then established himself as a writer, and he's gone on to write many successful books.
And it's a pleasure to have Chris on the show. I hope you enjoy.
Hello Chris, welcome to the show. Thanks very much for coming on.
Hello Stephen and Matthew. It's it's a bit of a pleasure actually, because I've got pals in Oz.
Oh yeah.
And well, actually, I was with 28th Commonwealth Brigade in Malaya, and in my squadron there was a composite troop of Australian engineers, and I had to put up with that lot for 3 years. But yeah, they were great pals. We had great fun. Yeah.
I know your pain. So whereabouts are you from originally?
I'm originally from Widnes, which was in Lancashire. So on my birth certificate, I'm a Lancashire lad. But they changed, politicians changed things. So Widnes is now in Cheshire. So It's a bit posher now.
Yeah. What was it like growing up there then?
It was hard. It was hard growing up. It was. No, I'm not going to go into all that. How hard it was, but. When I started work at the age of 15, I started work with my dad in Fison's fertilizers, and that job was humping 200 weight bags of dried blood.
Oh, lovely!
From a railway carriage into the plant, and I used to do this, and I soon became very strong. It was hard at first, of course.
Well, we make a blood pudding, like.
No, it's fertilizer.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah. The blood goes into fertilizer. But anyway, I left there when I realised it was totally pointless job, and became a steel erector. What I did, it's not an apprenticeship, it's called an approvership to become a steel erector, which takes about 3 years. So anyway, that happened, and I worked on the Widnes Runcorn Bridge for Dorman Long, worked on Sir Henry Baldwin's steel mills down in Llanwern in Wales. I worked on other around the country, different places, And it was a hard game, but it was a good. Used to call them Spider-Man in those days, but Spider-Man's different now, isn't he? And but yeah, we played. There was no such thing as soccer. There was no football. It was rugby. It was rugby league.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. Yeah. And so rugby league it was.
That's sport.
Yeah, that was what it. I mean, I was lucky. I managed to play for my county once, but as the under-16s. But anyway,
were you into martial arts as a kid? Or was that?
Oh yeah, I started judo when I was 14.
So rugby and judo, you must have been one of the hardest kids in the air, were you? But
everybody was hard. Everybody was hard, But yeah.
So you say you were in the army? Sorry, go on.
But also, I used to do a lot of cycling. I'd cycle up to Southport from Widnes, which is 20 odd miles or so. I'd start early in the morning, get back in the evening. Just to go to the beach and have a look around. But that was how it was. Then the martial arts. Well, actually, the martial arts came along even further when I went to Malaya.
Aye. Aye.
Yeah,
So,
and I joined the Singapore Karate Club. Now, this is at a time when karate was a new word, Nobody knew about this.
What year would this have been?
That was in 1965, that was. And but anyway, I had 3 years out there. And whenever I could, I got down to Singapore, to the karate club, which wasn't all that often, actually. But actually on Terendat camp, there's a gym and gym instructor and all the rest of it. It was a bit of a jiu-jitsu setup, but it was a big mixture, Kiwis, Aussies, Gurkhas even, yeah. And but yeah, it was good. And then when I left there, it was a bit hard to. I was a squaddy, and I left there, and I was stationed in Germany. And then the next thing that came along was Northern Ireland. So I did tours of Northern Ireland.
aye.
And that was what really jacked me off. I could see no end of it. I went in 71, and it was all street riots then.
Yeah.
We were all tooled up with visors and steel helmets, and we had the gas guns, the rubber bullets and all that rubbish. And but yeah, so it was continuous. That was. But then I went back to Germany from that first tour. And when I went back to Germany, I was posted to headquarters unit, and I was the engineer intelligence guy, which meant that it's not a James Bond outfit or anything like that. When battle groups move across Germany, there's all kinds of natural obstacles. Like the Germans love their big forests, you see. So a battle group can't get through a forest unless there is a lane through the forest. So these requests would come in for the wreckage of the bridge, and you get a chieftain tank and the likes of that going over these little bridges. The bridges hasn't got a chance. So in Germany, all of the bridges have got a sign on with the classification on it. And from that classification, you can assume that a tank can or cannot go across it. And I used to inspect all of these, and that was what it used to be like. Route wrecking and all the rest of it. It was very, very busy. And the other little job I had was going to. No, I better not say that because I signed the Official Secrets Act. So I'll leave that there. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
I was just.
How old were you when you first went in the army?
You're giving my age away.
Were you like straight from school, or you said obviously you got a job?
No. I was working on Girling's disc brakes in Birkenhead as a steel erector, and I had a fall, and I broke several bones. And anyway, from there, I got really hacked off, and that was when I joined the army. I joined the army in Liverpool in the recruitment centre in Liverpool. I went in there on crutches, and I signed up on the army with broken feet. But anyway, with broken foot. But yeah, that was what happened then. And then they took me in the army, passed the tests and all that. Became a Royal Engineer. Became a sapper. But that's what happened there. Then after the army, when I finished with the army, I went into the pub trade, and I did London pubs, the Trafalgar Tavern on the Thames, the Winning Post, Twickenham, Kensington Tavern, all these lovely big pubs. They were super character places. I don't know what they're like now, but they were then. They were really very special. And but then I was going then locally to a martial arts centre, where I continued my martial arts. And from there, eventually, I joined another martial arts outfit, the World Combat Federation. And over the period of time, I then became, well, I said, I'm going to, I told the boss that I'm going to Spain. So he said, oh, right, we haven't got a rep in Spain. Would you like to be our representative in Spain? I said, yeah. He said, oh, and the same with Portugal. So I was a third dan then. And anyway, off I went, and I had my certificates, blah, blah, blah. And then whilst I made my own business in Spain, martial arts business, which was really very good, actually. And I was teaching loads of bodyguards from Marbella, because the Arabs change their bodyguards every 6 months. They're not allowed to stay. So I get a new batch of them every kind of 6 months. And all the people who do the timeshare sales, they also needed to be able to defend themselves because they were quite often assaulted, but more especially for the children. Children I had were really great. You know, I had a headmaster of a school, and she told me that since the children from her school have been coming to me, they had completely changed in character. The academia, their work is 100% improved. And this is because now they had confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas prior to that, somebody in the classroom said, I see you in the playground, gonna bash your head in.
Yeah.
Well, after they'd been to me, they would reply, I'm looking forward to the exercise, mate. You know what I mean? And that is exactly what happens. I ended up on Spanish television explaining that with what went on. Yeah, but that was really good. Anyway, I then was headhunted, if you like, the International Budo Association. They're very big in the UK. They're very big all over the place. And guys over there, senior black belts, came over on holiday. And of course, they came into my dojo, and everything was very well. We all got on quite well. And for the period of their holiday, they were in my dojo every blinking day instead of being on the beach, you know. But anyway, this guy said to me, "Would you be interested in repping us in Spain? You would need to join the International Budo Association." So I said, "Okay." Anyway, and they said for a period of time, which took about 4 or 5 months actually for them to assess me. They were assessing me all this time. So they said, we'll bring you in as a fourth dan. So I said, okay, I'll do. And while we're at it, with your wife, she's a show dan, which is first dan anyway. So, and that happened. That was in 95, I got my fourth dan. And anyway, from there, I had a short trip to America, to the Gary Forbach's Academy. And from there, I did a couple of seminars, different martial arts groups in California, but especially the ones that had in California, in San Clemente, where the unit was, just the next town down was San Onofre, which is the big major marine base. So there was loads of jarheads coming in, you know, and and it was good business. So much so that I really thought hard about setting up a business in California. But I thought, no, I'm not doing that. So I come back to Spain.
You're happy in Costa del Sol?
Oh yeah, Costa del Sol was great. Costa del Sol is the most super place on the planet as far as I'm concerned. Really is. It's a great place. It's somewhere to enjoy, you know. But you've got to be careful, and I wasn't careful enough.
Yeah.
The people who I had my dojo from, who I rented it from, once they'd watched me spend all my money, I had to redeck it all out, new tatami, new mats, bags, you name it. I had to buy all the kit and all the rest of it. And that really took the bankroll. So we were then And really, we were trying to get off the ground with students. It's a bit difficult when you first start. But anyway, we did get the students eventually, and everything turned out great. It was all happening until one day, matey came in and he said, "We've got a problem because Charlie's going to, he's got an offer for the property and he's going to sell it. That means you've had it, unless you can buy it before." Really, quite well, we had no money, you know. So these gentlemen, apparently, they looked and talked as though they were businessmen. In fact, one of them had a business just not far from me, which was a gymnasium, and they were drug runners, hashish, cannabis resin, and what they said. Well, obviously, I was going to take Charlie's head off, but I calmed down, and then he came and said, "Look, we've got this little job that you can do. All it is bringing hashish, cannabis resin, 9 bars. A 9 bar it's called a 9 bar because it's 9 ounces of cannabis resin, like a chocolate bar.
You know about that, didn't you?
Boy, aye.
Yeah, and the 9 bar is actually 4 9 bars make a kilo. So that's why we did done in 9 bars, but you know, because of the mixture between UK and whatever. But anyway, that's what happened with that. And I started bringing this from La Linea up to Malaga, and then it would go from there. He sent it wherever it was. So I don't know where that went. But anyway, as time went on, this went on, and I was accumulating money. But at the same time, I was enjoying the thrill. It was, because
what was it like? What was like the first time you'd done it, and do you think like your military experience maybe give you confidence, or were you shitting it? Were you shitting yourself when you did it the first?
Well,
time?
I was a bit of both actually, but the thing was that it was cleverly worked out. I had the car, sports bags full of 9 bars into the boot in the street in La Linea, where all the women, Spanish villages, that seaside village, just where Gibraltar is, and all of the streets are covered in sheets. All the washing is hung out, and I have to drive through that washing to get to Lito's house. Lito was the boss, and then I'd go into Lito's house then, and I'd pay the money, and all of the bags would go in the back of the car. And he'd wait a minute, and he'd got a motorcyclist going up and down the carretera, because all of the time there are police blocks, surprise blocks, you know, stop suddenly, and then you're all in the trap, if you like. Well, the motorbike was the key to getting out of the trap or not falling into the trap. Every single road off the carretera, the motorway, going off, I'd already done every single road on my recce's. So once the motorcycle comes back and he goes like this, I've got to get off that road. All of these roads to the left and to the right, I knew where they were going. So I was never, ever caught, ever, on that. So it was all well planned, and that was how it used to be. But anyway, things grew. The next thing was that they said, right, because we're getting good at this, we're going to send you to the UK with 5 kilos on your back. So I said, okay, how are we going to manage that? So that was managed by a neoprene suit, like a big night shirt that comes up, and it's neoprene rubber, right? Now then, what they do, they put all the 9 bars on your back, taped all round, just on your back, not on your front, taped all round. Then you get into the neoprene suit, the neoprene nightie, if you want to call it a nightie, right down to your past your knees. And then it's lifted up. Sorry, I got that wrong. It's lifted up so it covers. You put the nightie on first, then put the blocks, then put the 9 bars on.
Yeah.
And when they're on, then you pick it up and seal it. You can jump up and down. Nothing's going anywhere because the neoprene is so tight. Nothing can fall out the bottom, right?
You're giving him ideas, yeah, mind.
Well, yeah.
Oh, it's already been sussed out. It's in my books. It's in my books. Like a lot of what went on is in the Carabanchel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is the Penguin Random House publishing of that. And the other book from Penguin Random House is The Lone Brit on 13. Now, all of these adventures are in these books. So
I'm guessing, you're saying adventures. I'm guessing the first time you did it, you got away with it, and then you continued doing it. So how long were you actually smuggling hashish over to England and that?
Well, I've got to tell you, it was quite a while. I used every single French port that was a ferry to UK, to England, all of them, and I used every airport in the UK. But let's deal with the airport first, because what happened then, I'd go through to Malaga Airport and get a flight out. Now you go through the magnetic thing. Now what you've got to be careful of is, because when they make these 9 bars, some silly sod might drop a drawing pin or a nail or a hair clip or anything that goes into that bar. That will show up on that machine, and that means 3 years inside instantly. That's that. So what you had to do before you put this lot on yourself, have a mine detector and go over over the lot, so there's no beeps, and then that's it. But still, tongue in cheek when you're going through there, I'm telling you, no joke. You have a squeaky bum when you're going through there. Yeah.
So you're saying you were doing all of this for the owner of the dojo, is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
At any point, before you started doing it, did you suspect that he was a bit of a crook, or did you just like think he was all right, and then it was just complete?
No, I was too busy making my martial arts business work.
Aye, fair enough.
I thought they were quite respectable. I mean, they were obviously well off, well dressed, And the Charlie guy he was Irish actually. He's got all his property in Ireland, and his money is in beef. All he's doing is cows in Ireland, and that's where that's what I thought anyway. All his money is coming from, I mean, he used to give 20, pesetas then anyway. Used to big large nut pesetas to people who served at the table, to waiters and waitresses. But he was one of those, he was a bit of an idiot actually. He didn't buy big motor cars, because that's the first thing the police are looking for. For instance, I'll tell you more about that later on, actually.
Yeah. Do you think you were the first? Do you think like you were the first one the first mule that they used, or do you think they were doing it before you as well?
Oh yeah, there's people already doing it.
Aye.
Oh yeah, they're not really a small. You might think they're a small organisation. People looking at this might think they're a small organisation because we're only taking 5 kilos at a time. 5 kilos at a time. I'm not sure then, but 1995, 96, a kilo of hashish then, I'm not sure, I think they were around about 7 grand. It was a lot of money.
You're giving your age away again, yeah, mind?
Don't worry. I'll worry about that later. Might tell you to edit that out, but never mind. Yeah, because look, ages. Believe this, when you get older and you are really very good at whatever you're doing, once you go over a certain age, even though you're even better at what you're doing, people around you are younger. And I've experienced this just with writing.
Aye.
It's just with writing,
isn't it, really? I know, I know it's also been a big thing, like in industry and all that. I don't know what's like in the UK, but I know in Australia, like when you apply for jobs and that now, you don't put your date of birth on, so that the companies can't discriminate based on your age. So when companies get CVs and that, they don't have the date of birth anymore, which I think is good. So you're just judging the person purely based on their experience and that, which is how it should be.
Well, I mean, there's lots of things about aging that people don't know about until they get there.
Mm.
You know, if your dad, I mean, people experience their dads being or whatever, losing a job, or the grandfather or whatever. But anyway, we're not here for that.
Yeah.
Where was I? We were up
Hashish. You were smuggling hashish
yeah.
over to England.
So what happened? What happened? I went.
You had nine balls on your back.
I even went
You had 9
Bradford
balls in
Airport.
your 90.
But that wasn't that right. Well, you think about that. If I've got 5 kilos on my back, and it's 7 or 8 grand a kilo, it's not a bad takeaway, is it?
Nah. In the 90s as well.
Aye.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but anyway, we digress about have a backpacking. But never mind. What happened then? Because that became successful, and because I was losing my bottle, actually, because I did get pulled at Manchester Airport, and I had this lot on my back. Now then, it's not as easy as you think. I called a motorcycle company in Manchester a couple of days before, and I said to the guy, "You've got a motorbike there, something California, I forget now what it was." He said, "Yes, sir, that's right." I said, "Well, look, I'm over in Spain. I'm coming over. I want to test ride that motorbike when I come over in a couple of days' time. Is that okay?" He said, "Yes, sir. What's your name, please?" So I gave him my name. And okay, any idea what time? I said it'll be in the afternoon. Very good. See you then. Thank you. Now then, when I got pulled in Manchester Airport, there was no reason to pull me actually, but anyway, they pulled me. This guy said, "Right, let's have a look in your bag." He said, where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to my mum's house." "Well, what are you going there for?" I said, "Well, to see my mum." And some divorce papers. I had divorce papers in there actually as well. I got some divorce papers. I've got to sort that one out. Oh, I said, and I've got a motorbike test to do. I'm going to buy this motorbike in Manchester. Oh, he said, "Where's that then?" So I told him. And he said, "Right, okay, just wait a minute." He went, he called him up, motorbike guy. "Oh, yes," he said, he's coming later today. He's coming straight from the airport, you know.
There you go.
So the guy come back, and here's me standing in front of him. No joke, I had 6 kilos on me back that morning, that day. 6, not 5. And he said, "Take your jacket off, please." Take your jacket off. Well, I thought, that's it. I've had it now. So I shook my jacket off. A very light nylon blouse on jacket, right, black. So I took that off, and he was looking at me. I don't do that because he'd see this. And the other side, you know, looking straight at him. He's looking at me and he's weighing me up. And the other guy come back with my passport then. I gave him my passport. "Thank you very much, sir. Only doing my job." I said, "Very good, thank you, okay."
Beauty.
I couldn't put the coat back on. So I flicked it over my shoulder like that.
Aye.
That side. So it covered me this side and kept that way. Cheerio. Yeah. Out I went into a cab, straight to this hotel where I had to get everything off and give it to somebody else. Come to the hotel, and then it was taken into Liverpool then. And the thing is about that stuff was that it wasn't Alpiado, which is the stuff, the rubbish hashish, which all comes to the UK.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get that in Holland or Finland or anywhere like that. They have Tabizla, Chicha, all the various grades, Sputnik. They're all higher grades, you know, of hashish.
Yeah.
But the stuff that I was taking into UK was really particularly good. And the clientele for this stuff were really doctors, dentists, policemen, nurses, firemen, all been taking this stuff all of their lives. Now, I don't know if you've met anybody who's been on good hash all of their lives, but I've met
not the area where I'm from. It was all very
much
the bad hash up there. Bits of
right.
But
yeah, this stuff was really top class. And Chicha and Tabizla is very, very expensive. I mean, that's for the royal tables, that is. Royalty have that on their tables.
Who was buying it off you?
Eh?
Was Lizzie buying the odd 9 bar?
No, she wasn't. No. that she would have to Bizzler. That would be that would be wrong for me to say that. I don't know what she has. I don't know what any of them have. I don't want to know what any of them have. But yeah, but things when you're in the game, and let me carry on first. Then we started taking it in cars. And what you used to have to do with the car, I'd go across the UK, buy a car in the UK, bring it back. The petrol tank would be taken off, split open, and a wall would be welded in between the petrol. And on this side is going to be 50 kilos of hash.
50 now.
Right? A lot of money, isn't it? And the petrol can't touch the hash, obviously, because that's it ruined. The hash is ruined. That's the end of that. But anyway, this happened, and I took these cars through every ferry port along the French coast to the UK, all the time, until the day I was grassed.
Oh yeah,
I was snitched on, and the guy who snitched on me was supposed to be a pal. He wasn't. He was working for the Customs and Excise.
no.
Believe it or not, when I was caught, I went to prison. I went to Lewis prison, which compared to what I'm going to tell you later was Butlins holiday camp, really. The screws were just like ordinary blokes, incidentally, a screw is a prison officer for those people who just arrived from Zob or Mars. And that's what they are. Anyway, so I was caught with, I think it was 45 kilos in that car. This guy snitched on me, and he was working, as I said, for the intelligence unit of the Customs and Excise Party. He was an informer. But they called him Mavericks. He was a maverick because they knew that he was also still bringing bits and bats too. But being clever, what they'd do, they'd know that he knew, because I was taking the cargo from somebody close to him. And he knew that I had the cargo. Now, prior to this, because he was part and parcel of everything, as everybody thought, he said to me one day, get a Vauxhall, whatever it was, doesn't matter, and bring it over to me. I live near Cambridge, and I will do the petrol tank. Come over to England, buy the car, take it to him. I will do the petrol tank. So I said, yeah, all right. So I did that. Never thought anything about it. Then I drove back, and then eventually that car was used, loaded up, and off I went with it. Now, he knew that I had the car loaded. He didn't know when I was going or anything like that. I'd never tell anybody anything like that. But he knew. And he made a guess, a clever guess actually, that I was going right now, if you know what I mean. So then he informed Customs and Excise in the UK. Now, that's the whole of the southern coast. I was coming to Calais, to Boulogne, So anyway, all that area was then warned about me coming over with a packet. And they pretended to pull people out of the line. They pulled me out and said, you go into that shed over there. And I noticed when I was going over there that the exit gates were still closed. Nobody could get out of the dock. So anyway, I went into here. I knew then that I'd been grassed. I knew. So anyway, they ripped the car apart, went straight to the petrol tank. And this guy said, oh, there's a bit of spanner rash here. And I said, no, there isn't. There's no spanner rash under there at all. Well, there isn't actually, because any spanner rash, what you do when you finish the job and everything's back into place, you get the wife's Hoover and all the dust in it. You puff it up, put WD all over it, puff it up so it has a big covering of dust. There's no spanner rash anywhere because it's not hidden. But anyway, so I said that's rubbish. You've been told. Oh no, we haven't. No, we haven't. Because once you let on, I know I've got an idea who has grasped me. Because I could only think about this guy. I don't know why I didn't have the suspicion in the first place, but when it happened, then I realised. So anyway, cutting a long story short, they put it through. They took the petrol tank off and put it through the X-ray machine, which showed up this this big lump of cannabis, you see, and then and then straight away this customs guy, right, and he got hold of me, handcuffed me to it. Right, you're under arrest now, blah blah blah, and took me off, which was great for me because they hadn't yet undone the petrol tank. Anyway, again, I'm going to cut a long story short because by the time I'd it took, I think it was about 9 months from then to my Crown Court appearance. So I was in Lewis Prison for a while, and then they gave me bail. So my mum bailed me out, 10,000 quid. There you go. And anyway, when I got home, I then had to go to the police station to sign on when you're on bail. While I'm there was these people waiting for me. This copper said to me, when you've signed that door, can you just go through that door? There are some people waiting for you. So I went through this door here to these people. I'll never forget, actually, a very attractive woman and a couple of blokes. And they said, oh, right, Christopher, we've got off they went. And you will work for us. Nobody will know who you are, what you're doing, but you will inform us of you. Just carry on what you're doing, and then you'll be all right. You'll be all right. Don't worry about it. So I said, okay, right. First of all, this other guy, whose name happens to be my name, Christopher. This other guy, Christopher, he works for you. Oh no, he doesn't. I said, oh yes, he does. I already know now what the score is. You caught him some time ago and he fell for your trickery. And here he is now grasping me and Tom, Dick and Harry. So they denied all of this. So I said, well, put it like this. Under no circumstances would I join you, for the simple reason is that guy who grasped me is going to have to leave the country. No matter what happens to me, that guy is going to have to leave the country, and you can do what you like about it. So, right, okay. Now, I've got to tell you now that guy did leave the country, and he went to Australia. And apparently something happened to him over there, because what happened with me being on bail, there was a pal of mine up in the other side of Manchester, doesn't matter. And I called him and said, how are you doing? He said, all right, Chris, what are you playing at? I said, I'm on bail. He said, what the hell are you doing on bail? So I told him. And he said, bloody hell, he said, that's a coincidence. He said, well, one of my taxis got caught a month or so ago. Call it a taxi like him. And I said, was it in the petrol tank? He said, yeah. I said, and was the petrol tank done by this Christopher? He said, yeah. So I said, well, he did mine, and here I am on bail. So now then, bloody hell, he said, there's a big team up in Leeds, and they're all in prison. He said, there's a team down in Cornwall, and they're in prison. So he's doing well, isn't he? He said he will be because the word is going out now. So anyway, you can't play about with these people, because the people in Leeds, a big group, right? They I heard on the grapevine that they found him. That somebody in Australia or whatever it was, or even they went over there. I don't know, but they found him. He's never been seen since.
Oh.
So what happened to him is anybody's business, you know. But anyway, that's what happens to a grass. So I told these guys, I said, look, when I was in Northern Ireland, I was dealing with people who were called touts. They were very brave people who were telling intelligence people what was going on in certain areas and one thing and the rest. If they were caught, they were dead. There's a lot of them dead already because of the handler didn't have the experience or the nous to control everything, just like you don't have the experience or the nous to control this guy, this other Christopher of yours. So anyway, that ended that. But the good story is I went to the Crown Court in Lewis, and I was found not guilty.
Result?
How do you like that?
Not guilty.
How do you like that? Yeah.
How come? How come?
Because I told it. I told the story, but I've just told you. But also, I told them that in the court, I told them that whilst you're all waiting for me with my 50 key, he is somewhere on that ferry with a truck, probably full of Charlie, smack, all kinds of stuff, because he knows you lot are looking at me.
Yeah.
You know, so there you go.
Mental.
But the prosecutor said, but you knew what was in that tank. I said, no, I didn't. He said, you must have seen it. I said, no, I didn't. I didn't see anything in that tank, apart from petrol that I put in it. As far as I was concerned, what was in that tank actually was gold. And the only offence I've committed with gold is a VAT offence.
Yeah.
I was going from here to Hatton Garden with this lot. That was where I was going, to Hatton Garden. And so it all kind of fell into place. And because I was, at the same time, I was doing a bit of bodyguarding at the time as well. But I was teaching a very important lady's son private martial arts. And she's prominent, she's a baroness actually. And but she used to send gold to Mannheim, the German smelting corporation at Mannheim, because she was actually a dealer between Africa and different places in Africa. And she was an extremely wealthy woman with a great big palace in Port-au-Prince. But anyway, so I told them all of that, that I thought this was the gold from the baroness that I was taking there. Bingo. Not guilty.
So you got a lucky escape that time then.
Oh, I did indeed.
How long were you actually doing the smuggling and stuff before you did get caught? And what was it that made you keep doing it? Because I know at the start it was kind of out of necessity, because obviously you needed money because they were going to take the dojo off you. So what made you, after the first couple of paydays, like keep doing it? And then how long were you doing it until you actually got?
Well, what happened after that? The motor car business was kind of the end of it, because now I'm exposed. If I was going anywhere in the UK, I'm a marked man. So that was the end of that. No more cars, no more backpacking, nothing. But because I had certain skills, like sailing, this guy, Lito, he was the bloke down in La Linea. He said to me, can you sail? I said, yeah. He said, what can you sail? I said, well, anything. The yacht, ribs. So I got my, I went, when I was in the army, I went to the Royal Engineers yacht school up on the Baltic Sea. So I got a bit of experience there. But besides that, I was assault craft and heavy ferry work and all the rest of it. I could sail. Anyway, he said, well, there's a job here. He said, a rib. I said, can you sail a rib? I said, there's one-legged duck swim in circles. You know, of course I can swim in a rib. I'm going to drive a rib. Bloody hell. You know. So anyway, he said, right, okay, I'll come with you. Now then, when he came with me, that's part of the story in the National Geographic movie that they made of me,
Yeah.
where Mark Wingett plays me.
Yeah.
And he takes a rib over to Morocco for a ton of hashish and brings it back. Now that is actually in the movie, in the National Geographic episode, and and that is kind of precisely what happened. But I've got to say that the movie company who made it really very 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 good. And Mark Wingett is actor best bar none. You know what I mean? He's absolutely super. But the rib, they had a white rib. You don't have a white rib
Yeah,
when
it's
you're a
too
smuggler.
visible.
Yeah, and when you leave the shore, you've very low revs because you're creating a wake and a noise. And when you're approaching the shore, the same thing. When you get within sight of your landing, and long before that, you cut the speed down so you're not making a wake.
Yeah.
Because anything in the sky will see the wake, you see. So anyway, these are all little tips.
Noted.
So yeah, so that's what happened. And again, I got away with all of that. But first of all, somebody who I worked with previously, a fellow called Paco, he's an estate agent in Los Beliches, which is in Fuengirola. And he said to me, "You've got this minibus up at your finca." I had a farmhouse then, 10,000 square meters of fruit trees and swimming pool and all that. You know, I had these little rewards. But anyway, I said, "Can't do that. I've got a rib job to do, you know." He said, "Right, okay. But you've got to do this because it was me that was part and parcel of you being into this trade in the first place and all the rest of it, you know." Which in a way he was. But anyway, he said, "But I've got these people from the north of Spain, and if I don't take this cargo up to the other side of Madrid, I can't remember it now, it doesn't matter, to meet this truck that's going to unload this cargo, and the Dutch truck is coming along and just transfer the load into this Dutch truck." And I said, "Well, who the hell is it?" He said, "Well, you don't know them and you won't see them. But I've got to get this there. My wife and kids are in it. They're going to damage my wife and kids." I said, "Well, it means that we've got to get there and back quick because I've got this job that's got to go, you know." "All right, great. It's no problem." Anyway, the idiot that I was, I was so stupid to do this, but never mind. I felt sorry for him. I especially felt sorry for his wife. She was a nice woman, and his kids, you know. And these people are ruthless. Because the guy who was going to drive it up there to meet the lorry legged it. He'd gone. I should have known something then, when he told me that the guy had upped it. But anyway, off we went. And what had been happening prior to all of this was these idiots been talking to each other on mobile phones and all been listened to. And the secret police knew everything. So anyway, unbeknownst to me, I took it was a Caravel, Volkswagen Caravel, took it to this farm where the guys around there, I mean, they're all armed. They've all got weapons, you know, all got guns. They're in Wild West. But anyway, they probably never ever used them in their life. But anyway, in comes the stuff into the bus, put blankets over it and what have you, a few cardboard boxes, and that's that. And off I went. Now, Paco was in front by about 5 to 10 minutes in front on the phone. Right. If he spots anything, he's going to phone and I'm going to come off. Right. So anyway, this happened. The next thing, my phone goes and he says, "Pull into junction 13. There was another marker, 13, for Christ's sake, 13. No, I'm not going in there. What's all this about? He said, well, we're all in there. The guys who own the stuff are in there, and they're going to take the transfer from there rather than going through Madrid and all the rest of it. The truck is going to be there. Oh, all right. With that, I now drive into this junction 13. Straight away, I was boxed in. Police cars.
Oh no.
Well, I got my boot down anyway, and going in here now. And I thought, there's a hotel there, there's a garage here and a cafe, restaurant, and all the rest of it. Right, I'm going to pull into here right now. So anyway, I pulled into here, this gap, and you know these big meridians, the metal things that you have on the motorways?
Yeah.
No one of them there. So, but anyway, I made it so that I could open my door. So I opened it, and as I'm opening it, this guy is running towards me, and he's got a gun in his hand. And I thought, he's going to pinch the ship. This is another gang going to take them. Yeah. But it wasn't the secret police. So anyway, when he gets to me, I hit him with the door. Bang! That was it. Didn't hurt him, but I knocked him over, you know. But the thing is, I had to jump over this, and I landed badly, and I winded myself. Bloody hell!
Mm.
So anyway, I ran like bloody hell to this hotel, and it was a hotel that was under construction actually, but there's nobody there, not a soul there, but I could see cars around the other side. So I thought I'll have a go at that. So I ran into the hotel itself, and the doors were all open, what have you. It was like a building site. But anyway, I went up these stairs and I thought, I'll get out this window onto a roof and nip over there for one of those. That's what I was thinking. But it was all locked inside, and I was trying these other doors. And in the main door came the police. Now that scene is also in the National Geographic, but they cut the bits out that what actually happened. Because what happened then, there was 5 coppers there, all with guns. And I just said, okay, tranquilo, I haven't got a gun. I'm not going to do anything, you know, just do what you got to do. So this guy, he grabbed hold of my hand, and the other fella grabbed my hand, put my hand behind my back, and cuffed me up. And then they beat the shit out of me. All my teeth, all these,
Honestly?
all this, all gone.
Ruthless.
Yeah, nose broken. My nose was over here.
Christ.
And yeah, they gave me a good kicking. And that kicking that I received, I have problems with that from all that time ago. Because the kicking, one of them burst my ass. His foot went up my ass.
Hell.
Yeah.
It's not funny.
And no, well, I laugh at it now anyway. It doesn't matter. You can all have a laugh.
Like
yours is a good
I would
laugh.
like to put up my hole.
but anyway, and my testicles were like this.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, they'd kicked me so hard. I'd ribs. My nose was broken. My nose was down here.
That's awful.
And my head, my teeth, they pistol whipped me, you see. That's how my teeth went. They pistol whipped me. And
Yes.
And my head, I couldn't see because the blood was all in my eyes. But anyway, then I couldn't see anyway because I was laid down. But anyway, when they got me out of there and they put me in the police car, I sat in the police car and I was very uncomfortable with the hands behind your back, and you kind of like this in the police car, sitting there. This guy comes along here, me, big, uneducated. You can see that we're an oaf when you see an oaf, you know it's an oaf, don't you? He leaned in, and I couldn't do anything about it. He just leaned in and he went bosh. I just put my head there like that, bosh. And of course, he had blood all over it. My head was soaked with blood, you see. And but then one of his pals said, "Come," took him away. Anyway, then they took me to the barracks in Madrid. When I was in there, I said, I need to get washed up. And the boss there, he said, he spoke English actually. He said, "You try your karate shit on my men, English. Doesn't work." I said, "What karate shit might that be?" He said, "You attacked him." I said, they've all got guns. I haven't got one. Doesn't matter, he said. You attack my men, you pay. Anyway, it goes into the thing now. He took my handcuffs off and it goes into all these wash basins along here. And I'm washing myself, washing all this lot off. And I grabbed hold of my nose. My nose was here, and I grabbed hold of my nose and and there it is now. It's broken, but it's back in place. And but anyway, this guy next to me, he puked all over the place because I'd done that. All this fresh blood come flying out. You know? This guy puked everywhere. I said, "Oh, hombre, no, ¿qué pasa?"
Hombre.
Yeah. Anyway, cutting the long story short again, bells and blues and twos, all the rest of it, to the hospital in Madrid. When we get to the hospital in Madrid, the press are there now because the word had got out that they'd got this big time drug smuggler and they'd been waiting to catch him for years and all the rest of it. Anyway, the national police take over then when they got there. So they dragged me out of the car, the national police were there. And the boss of the national police, he spoke English. And he looked at me and the blood was coming out. And he said, "Have you been in an accident or did they do it?" I said, "What do you think? You think I accidentally go running round and butting people's guns? Eh? Come on." So anyway, then there's they don't like each other in these different police forces. But there was an instant dislike then. And off into the hospital I went. And the secret guys come in as well. And then this woman came along, the doctor. Oh, crikey, built like Tessie O'Shea. You know, she comes in and she has a green cloth, puts it on my head. And she got this buzzing razor. I said, "No." She spoke English. She said, "The hair might get trapped in the stitches." I said, "Well, I'll deal with that. But you're not putting that over my head. You know, you're not cutting my hair off. No, just get on with it." So these people are all in here now. Now I'm sitting down, the green cloth on my head. And she had an implement there and she dug in. She did this on purpose and scratched me skull.
Oh, nice.
I'll tell you what, it's a great feeling, I tell you.
Is it?
When somebody's scratching your skull and you're thinking about, you know, Chinese choir boys stamping all over the place or something like that. You got to put your mind somewhere else. You got to get out of there. So you think about whatever you want to think about. But nowhere do you make a sound because that's what she's waiting for. Can't make a sound. And she went on doing this. And one by one, secret police went out and the national police went out except the boss. And the boss actually said to her, "Do you have to make that scratching noise when you do this stitching?" You know? And she said, "You do your job and I do mine." And off it all went. And I said, "Well, that's all right. What about this? What about my testicles?" "Oh, they'll deal with that in prison," she said.
They much for that, like?
Yeah. "And what about my ass is pouring blood in my ass?" "They'll deal with that in prison as well." So anyway, that's what happened then.
As well. Well,
that's what happened. I went to prison then. I went to a holding cell down in Madrid. And the place is just full of lunatics. I mean, the guy who was running the show, the Screw, he was like out of a Boris Karloff movie, you know. And he was like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, you know, bloody hell, you know. More like the Hunchback of Notty Ash, but never mind. It was terrible. The food was undescribable. And you had to pee out of the bars into the sewer gully that was running all down the front of where all the cells were. There was a sewer about that wide, a gully if you want. And everybody used to just pee in that.
Oh, nice.
And then they come around with this food, which is in a plastic container. And he looked at me and he said, "Food shit." I said, "Yeah, I can see that." And he said, "Throw the food in the gully and shit in the packet because you don't want to go to the toilet here because you've seen nothing like it. So I said, "What? Okay, I'm not going to go to the toilet anyway, So, but anyway, yeah, shit in the packet," he said, "and throw it on the wheelbarrow when the guy comes around with the wheelbarrow for the scraps." But anyway, that was the kind of place that was, and from there I went to court, and from the court I went to Carabanchel.
Do you reckon if you didn't get caught, you'd still be doing it now?
Oh, it's a good job I got caught, actually. Because had I continued doing what I was doing, which was racing across the Med from Spain to North Africa in a rather large, fast rib. Rib is a reinforced inflatable boat, by the way. You all know what a rib is. And you've got 2 or maybe 3 250cc engines on the transom on the back. You're speeding. And it's against the law in Spain. You can't have these big engines on your boats in Spain because you're faster than the customs cutters. And believe me, when the Med is very often like a mill pond. When it gets choppy, it's a bit crappy, but it's very often like a mill pond. And in those conditions, you hurtle across there to Africa with your engines wailing like banshees, and you're doing about 50, 60 knots. Sea conditions determine whether you're going to go that fast. But normally, nice and flat, you can get away with it. But the thing is this, you see, there's that much debris in the Med. I've actually seen floating containers that have fallen off a container ship or been pushed off. I don't know how they got in the sea, but they're in the sea and they're floating, and you can only see the top of them, not the whole container. Only see the top of them, and you hit one of those, and you're not going home because there's nobody there to pick the pieces up. There's nobody there. You're in the middle of the Mediterranean, and then you've got the shipping lanes that you've got to comply with, and there's always a mist. The dangers are so enormous that you have to be a real adrenaline junkie, which is what I was. I was an adrenaline. I've done everything. I've jumped out of airplanes, parachute. Oh, doesn't matter, all of that. This is serious stuff. You're driving a high-speed rib, empty, across to North Africa. Different on the way back because you've got 2 ton on board. Yeah. So, but it's still dangerous because you're still going across the shipping lanes, and it's that bit down there near Gibraltar and Tangier where all that is. Stay away from there. That's kamikaze country. Got to come further up. And I used to come across. Most of my stuff was on the Tetuan beaches, or the Capa Negro was a favourite, and I'd be loaded offshore at Capa Negro, and I'd come back up to Malaga area or further eastern Malaga, Torrox and places up there, and drive ashore. There's always a party waiting for you to unload, you see.
Yeah.
And on the way across, you can't see. The thing is, you've got no lights. You can't even put your compass light on. You don't have port and star, but you have none of that on there.
It's following the stars.
The Polaris, the North Star is good enough,
Christ.
And but you're going along, and the engines are wailing like a banshee. It's got to say that because that's exactly what they sound like. Not that I've seen many banshees, but anyway, then suddenly you can hear a thumping noise. But normally, what happens first? You get the first wave, the bow wave. Now once the bow wave hits you, somewhere in front of you, something is going that way or that way, depending on which way the bow wave hits you, right? And if you carry on speeding the way you are, I'm going to run into a big ship. Worse still, I might run into the back end of a big ship. And that's how you do it. And but that's shipping lanes.
Yeah. So you
Very
said
dangerous place to be. So I would have died. I imagine that I would have been probably the richest man in the graveyard had I carried on.
That's one way to put it. Like,
aye. So you're saying you got transferred into Carabanchel, and that gets described as Europe's roughest prison at that time. So what were the conditions like there?
Horrible.
Were they?
Yeah. The Carabanchel, it changes because prisoners change, you see.
It's shut now, isn't it? It's not.
It's been demolished. It's not even there anymore. It's been demolished. But some people say, I was in the Carabanchel. It wasn't really like that. And I said, when was you there? About 5 years before I was there. Well, the set of prisons what you had in there then, they might have all been, depending on which wing you were on, or modular were you on, or, gallery. I was on Galleria Cinco, Wing 5. And different wings sport different kinds of criminals, if you like. They do in other prisons, certainly. But in the Carabanchel, they were predominantly Spanish gypsies. Now, as a pal of mine, he was in Carabanchel before me. We contact each other on Facebook. He was in before me. And he was actually tortured. He was physically tortured. He was electrocuted. Now, can you imagine? Going to talk about testicles again now.
honestly,
Can you imagine a crocodile being clipped onto one of your knackers?
Christ.
I wouldn't fancy that.
Well, that's what they did to him. And anybody who was kind of too fit, if you like, too stroppy, or who showed his hatred for the screws, was given the liquid kosh. That's what's it called now? It's not allowed anymore, but
Waterboarding.
They do it. I can't think of the name of it in a bit. I might think of it.
Waterboarding, maybe, is it?
It's an injection.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you see the guys who get out of hand, really demonstrably out of hand. Now, the next time you see them, once they've been taken to the infirmary, they're shuffling around like a zombie.
Well, is that permanent as well?
No, it's not permanent. No, you see these guys, and when they've done whatever weeks of I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the bloody drug. I might think of it before we finish. But anyway, never mind.
All right.
And that was what you said to him. But Brian's time in the Carabanchel must have been far worse than my time. So I can understand how people can say, right, Chris, but when I was in there, it wasn't like that. It was like this. Well, that's because prisons change constantly. You know, they've got, even the screws get changed about. They get moved about from different places. And the screws I met, I've got to admit, I met some, in all of the French prisons I went to, I met one person who I thought was compos mentis. And he was a black guy. He was a screw. And he was an ex-British squaddy. And he was working as a screw in Fresnes prison in Paris. Terrible place. But the people, the screws in La Moraleca, for instance.
How many jails have you been
to? 12 altogether.
12 was it?
Yeah.
How come it was so many?
Because it was like court cases. You change a prison to go to court. They'll. For instance, I left La Moraleca to go to Valdemoro. Valdemoro being Spain's top security prison in Madrid. And to tell you how secure it was, that's where they kept Kenny Noy. Have you heard of Kenny Noy?
No.
Kenneth Noy. He was. There's the book about him, calling him Britain's public enemy number one, and there's all kinds of stories about Kenny Noy. He's still in prison, by the way, and he was the guy who killed the policeman. Policeman Jonathan Ford, I think his name, the cop's name. He killed him. He stabbed him 11 times. And he got away with it, not guilty, because this policeman was behaving like an SAS trooper in a hole in this guy's garden. And so when the guy's dog, Kenny Noy's dog, alerted him to it, he went out there thinking it was whoever he thought it was, and he stabbed him. So anyway, but he got away with it. And then he was the guy who killed the guy on the famous motorway murder, where it was when the violence from motorcars first really got the headlines. He killed this guy. He stabbed him. He was parked in front of him, something like that. I don't know. But anyway, this is what happened. All kinds of things were said about that. But anyway, I was with Kenny Noy in Valdemoro Prison. And he turned out to be a real gent in many ways. He was kind. He had loads of money. He was kind and, he was quite a thoughtful bloke. I used to walk around the yard with him chatting about one thing and the rest of it. And the things I've read about him were a million miles away from the guy who I met personally. But never mind. I mean, that's the press, that's the media. If the media want to make a mess of you, then they do. So, and I suppose with him being responsible for 2 deaths, if you like, I suppose he does deserve a bit of barracking, but that's not for me to say. Yeah. But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, one English prison, which I told you about, Lewis Prison, and the rest were in Spain and France. The first one in France was late actually. I mean, it was 1998 when I first was put in prison, and the one in France, it was 2007. But people over here have heard about Sangat, which is like a prison, a holding pen for illegal immigrants. Well, I was put in there. I was put in a single cell, no bed, just a concrete floor, a hole in the corner to pee in, or whatever you want to do in it. And food was totally atrocious, and I was naked.
Oh, no.
They stripped me naked. And the treatment was, I needed a drink of water. And I asked this woman, Screw, I'll never forget her as long as I live. She had big red lips, makeup, bright red lipstick, and she looked like a beef tomato sitting in the middle of a welder's bench. Oh, good golly. But anyway, she was terrible. She was a horrible person. Asked her for the water. And she called this other guy over and spoke in French, obviously. Give him some O or whatever the hell they call it over there. But anyway, this guy took me to this toilet, which is where all of the Arab prisoners use. And all it is a hole in the floor and a tap on the wall. And loads of these bottles. Now, what they do, they don't use paper to clear themselves. They use these plastic bottles. They fill it up with water, do what they've got to do, then they pour that over their ass and scratch it all away with the left hand. That's why he said you never offer your left hand to an Arab. It's an insult. Because that's, to be rude, that's the shit hand. Okay. And that's the way of it. So this guy gave me this bottle. I said, you think I'm going to put water in that after it's been around how many Arabs' asses to drink? He said, well, suit yourself. Well, I'm not having that. I said, I'll have a mouthful. I'll run the tap and just take a mouthful from the tap. Tell me what you want. Okay. And yeah. Yeah. Yeah, fill your boots, lad, you know. So anyway, that was the first treatment I experienced with the frogs. Anybody ever tell me that frog food, French cuisine, it's not. It's all roadkill. It's all shite.
It's all roadkill.
Yeah, they eat roadkill. That's all it is. You know, you know. Can't help it, fellas. You know. But the thing is, I was in Sangatz. Then I went to the Douai dungeon, and from there I went to Bapaume. From there I went to Fresnes, and in those 4 prisons, I was treated like some kind of animal. And the point here is that I never committed a crime in France. I was only there for extradition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
mad. They had my documents, you see, as they do, from Spain. And on my documents, there's a big red stamp which says peligroso, which means dangerous.
Mm.
And that was because I'm a black belt. That was the only reason why they put that there.
Did your martial arts experience get you by in prison? Like, did you get any scrapes and had to defend yourself?
Oh, all the time. All the time. When you go into prison, I see lots of blokes. They lose their teeth and all kinds of stuff within the first couple of hours.
Christ.
But when you go into these prisons, not so much the French prisons, because if you're going to lose your teeth there, it's going to be with the screws, not with the inmates. You hardly see the other inmates. But anyway, but as I say, I was more or less in solitary confinement most of the time. And but anyway, in the Spanish prisons, first of all, I got a job as Jefe del Poliportivo. Jefe del Poliportivo is the boss of the gym. And the reason why I got that job is because the subdirector of the prison, he was the boss of the talleres, which is all of the workshops and all the workforce in the prison. He knew all about me through a friend of mine who was a friend of his, who was also came to me in prison. Now, because of all of this, subdirector and his family went down to my house on the Costa del Sol, and my swimming pool, and my wife looked after this lot, bed and breakfast, if you like, and evening meal, right? While I am cooking in his prison in Madrid. How do you like that? Well, the thing about that is because corruption goes all the way to the top.
Aye.
I know more corrupt people in Spain and Morocco than I know ordinary people.
And they say the shit rolls downhill, doesn't it? So it just feeds down to every layer of society.
So they didn't want me inside. They want me outside. I'm no good to them inside, so they got to get me out. And this is the whole thing that happened all along. So he made me, he gave me a job, first of all, in the talleres, in the workshops, in the what's called a zapateria, where the shoes are made. I never made a shoe in my life. I never even made a shoe in where I was supposed to be working. And he gave me a telephone.
You're a cobbler.
Yeah. And he gave me a telephone so I could call my wife. But he went to my house and had his holiday with his family in my house for a couple of weeks. But there was more to it than that. He was meeting people down there, people from Colombia and what have you, and doing business.
It was in prison where you started writing, wasn't it? What kind of inspired you to start writing? And
violence.
Okay.
The day I went in there, the violence happened on the very first day. And thereafter, I realized more or less instantly that I've got to change. I've not got to, the word mercy is now defunct. You can't use this word anymore.
I'm guessing that wasn't poetry that you were writing then. If it was violence, I'm guessing it wasn't poetry that you were writing. If it was violence, what had inspired you?
No, it was violence. I'm keeping a daily journal. What happened every day, I wrote my journal every day. Fortunately, I've still got those journals. They're somewhere up in my attic somewhere. I don't know where the hell they are. But from those journals, I made the books. Both of them. There they are. I think you can get them in Australia.
Yeah, they're on Amazon. We'll put the links.
You know.
We'll put the links in the description, so people can have a look at your books and buy them online.
Okay, we'll do that when we finish. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just send them over, and we'll just copy and paste them straight in whenever this goes out.
Okay. Right. The thing is, with your first question about being caught, what was it like? Well, I've told you kind of what it was like, but would I be doing it again? And so I told you that I didn't want to be the richest man in the graveyard.
Yeah.
The thing is, you see, when you're dealing with people like this, and let's forget the dealing part of it, when you're living with people like this, your blood would run cold at some of the things that these people do and have done. So outlandish. So I've sat at a table and had my lunch, dinner with paedophiles, necrophiliacs who kill children and use them as a sex object until the stink gets too much and then they got to bury them. Yeah. Cannibals. Yeah. I've shared my space with these people. Cannibals. One cannibal, he's in. Oh, right. Those two books.
He's at the door.
Hang on a minute.
Put him in the cupboard.
Oh, that's him now.
I'm looking for my book and I can't see it. Can't see the damn thing. Sorry about this.
Oh, you are
anyway.
There it is. This one, Satan's Arena. This is my final book in the trilogy. Carabanchel, Lumbriton 13, and Satan's Arena. That's the trilogy of books. And this one is a kind of book that takes in a bit of all of the prisons. In other words, it's my Michelin guide for European prisons.
Oh, yeah.
So well, that's this, right? And in that, there are stories about these people. I've put in that particular book, I put an insert chapter, if you like, called "The Night I Kissed the Devil," which was the night that I thought I'd kissed the devil, because the nightmares are few and far between with me, but this one was really, really particularly bad. But because of the people that you're with, this is what affects you. You know what they've done. Another prisoner on my table, a young, good-looking young fella, cheery and all the rest of it, is all right. But I found out that he chopped his uncle's head off with a samurai sword.
Oh, wow.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but not just that. Then he took it outside then and started playing football with it. But anyway, that's not much to shout about. But certainly the cannibals, one guy across from me, you'll read about him in those books anyway. He was a quiet, kind of subdued little man, salt and pepper hair, bit of a grey. He ate his wife.
Jesus.
Yeah. And
he ate his wife.
The only way he ate his missus. Yeah. The only way they caught him was on an inspection of a refrigerator where they found a little fingernail, which was hers.
That's madness, isn't it, man?
Oh yeah. And well, these are the people, and
whatever than that, he was a nice.
You see that? Yeah. The thing is, they're not segregated. They're not segregated.
Yeah.
They share your space.
Yeah. So you could be in there for something quite kind of minor in comparison, but you're sharing cells with cannibals and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, what I did is legal now, isn't it? Near enough, you know.
I know that's mad.
I mean, yeah,
Aye.
but I don't care about that. I've had my time, and I've done my time. You know,
And it's
and
give you this experience to write these fantastic books. Do you look back at your time as a regretful episode, or do you think it's something that shaped who you are today?
well, I'd rather think it shaped how I am today because I tend to stay away from um, regrets because it don't matter what you do, you can't unspill the milk. You know,
Yeah.
once you spill the milk, it's spilt. There's no one spilling it. So
Mm.
I think it's I'm robbing brain cells to think about doing things differently. So no, it's futile. Why go down that avenue? You're just giving yourself a headache. So no, you don't bother with all of that. Be positive all the time. You just be positive. What am I doing now? What am I doing now? I'm enjoying myself. I'm writing. That's what I do now. And you know, I live a very quiet life. Um, I the only other thing is, apart from your wife and my dog, you don't really have any more companions. It's a lonely life being a writer.
Mm.
But because I'm in my study here, day in, day out, I do at least 6 hours a day writing. You know, screenplays. The thing is, one of the important things about the writing is this, and I've told this to several people. Several people have contacted me saying, "How the hell have you not got PTSI? How the hell haven't you gone round the bend?"
Mm.
Well, I know the answer to that. And the first answer is that because I'm a martial artist and I do a lot of thinking as a martial artist, see. And the major thing about all of this, and I said this to any soldiers who I've spoken to and people's families who have got people in foreign prisons, I've always said to them, look, give him a notepad, a big one, A4, and pencils or pens, and he should write day after day after day what is going on. And if you're a soldier, you should write what you've gone through. Write it. Write it. It's therapeutic. Get it off your chest. You can't tell it to everybody. Oh, I see this. No, write it. Get it right written. If you're feeling dodgy and all the rest of it, and everything's getting on top of you, start writing. And you never know your luck. You might get published like I did. That's what I did, you see. And I got published, you see.
Yeah.
And the beauty about that is, and the other thing is, I'm not formally educated. I didn't go to university. But I've got books published by Penguin Random House and Strand Publishing UK. And I'm commissioned to write 2 more books from Strand Publishing UK. I've got a screenplay that is with the De Laurentiis Group in Hollywood. And my agent has 8 of my screenplays. In all of these years since then, that's what I've been doing, writing. And I've enjoyed the writing because you'd be surprised how you can spark your brain into gear when you come up with things. And I tell you what, sometimes I'll re-edit. I'll let's say I write 10 pages today, or 6, doesn't matter. Tomorrow I'll pick that up, the manuscript up, or on my computer rather, and I'll go back and what I did yesterday. Just read it quickly, and you look at it and you think, who the bloody hell wrote this? That's what writing is like. You didn't think you had it in you.
Yeah.
Who the hell wrote this? You know, I wrote it, for Christ's sake. And that's what happens. And that's what I'm trying to say to people who have got PTSI. Yeah. People who are suffering, you know, homeless people and the likes of that. It's pretty difficult for them to scribble down whatever. But certainly people who are living in a house and one thing or other, people who have these mental problems, get it off your chest.
Yeah, because it's a great message, and hopefully somebody out there watching this will, take that advice and hopefully have helped someone.
Well, I've done it before, Stephen. I've had emails thanking me. Thank you. That works. So the doctor's not going to tell you that. Nor is the shrink. The shrink isn't going to tell you either. Cool, I've met some shrinks in prison. Bloody hell. But anyway, never mind. So have we got much longer?
I was going to say that I think that's a pretty good note to kind of finish up on. We've kind of came full circle there, haven't we? Unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on. It's up to you.
Yes, please. Yes, please. First of all, what is it? It's the 4th of November. In a week's time, it's Armistice Day, where everybody remembers the forebears from the wars. And my grandfather, when the Battle of the Somme centenary, that was in 2016. During that year, the centenary, the 1st of July, 1916, was the first day of the Battle of Somme, the worst battle in history, as far as I know. And my grandfather was killed in that. He was killed in action in there, and a lot of other grandfathers were too. And so I wrote this book, and it's called Beneath the Poppy Fields, right? And I'm getting a lot of great reviews on this, but it's the story about the turn of the century, 20th century, with how people were coerced into going to war. And this is about, because I spent 12 years in the Royal Engineers, I know a lot about what goes on with regards to soldiering engineering, because I was a combat engineer grade 1. Anyway, so with that knowledge, plus research knowledge, plus how things used to be, look at things like War Horse, you look at a movie like that, gives you a lot of information what it was like living in a village and things like that. But I start off living in a town with coal mines around it, Widnes, Sutton Manor Coalfield, Bull Colliery, and blah, blah, blah. And all of these miners, the Germans were beating us. They were winning us because they were there first and all their tunnels were dug. And every time we had a front line, they were blowing it up. So we retaliated by recruiting these men from down the mines. And these men were taken, they were coerced in so much as by saying, come on, where's your patriotism? Your wife and kids, you don't want to see Germans with bayonets coming down your street with your wife and kids, that kind of stuff, So join up. And join up now, because if you wait to be called up, you don't get the same money as when you join up like this, when you volunteer. So they did. And this is the story about them. A group of miners that end up in the mines. And it is really, and the funny thing is, I've got more reviews from women for this book than I have for men. How strange is that? But anyway, that's what it is. And this again is available. And actually, yeah. Now then, with that, I'll come back to the Assassin's Code. Now, the Assassin's Code, I told you about the screenplays in America at the moment. The two other books that I'm making a trilogy of this, because this is about Arrowsmith, who is ex-SAS, and he was poached out of the army by the Secret Service. And the following books, Motherland and Blown, is all to do with ribs and spies and all the rest of it. They're going to follow on with that. Okay?
I'm in.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your successful writing career, and thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Great, thank you.
Appreciate it.
To all my pals in Australia, all the boys in 4th Troop, Royal Engineers, Australian Engineers, good on you, mate.
Be in touch.
All the best, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Talk to you soon, yeah?
Yeah,
you too, mate.
Definitely.
Take care, mate.
Yeah, bye-bye.
What do you do, matey?
Hello, my name is Christopher Chance, and I've just received my proof copy of the 3rd book in the Carabanchel trilogy, Satan's Arena. This book is the most appalling of true crime prison writing, which chronicles the events of years spent in Spanish prisons. It highlights the fact that much international crime is planned in prison and prison is the villain's job centre. My harrowing book is prison writing in the raw, and is not for the squeamish or the politically correct. The anti-Spanish and the anti-French sentiment is solely due to my undiluted emotions at the time of writing, due to the cruel treatment I received at the hands of my unholy jailers. Welcome to the brutal, ugly, and dangerous corridors of Satan's arena, where my pen and martial arts skills worked doggedly, whilst all around was chaos. Enter at your peril. My name is Christopher Chance, and I'm the author of this book, Beneath the Poppy Fields. The book is a World War I story about the miners from the northwest of England, and the propaganda aspect of it was how they got roped into doing this emergency work, because the Germans were actually beating us at that time because of we were being undermined. So the propaganda reason for the war was like a kind of, well, with this particular bunch of men, as you were reading the book, were recruited by Major John Norton Griffiths, a Royal Engineers professional. Also, he was a member of Parliament and a millionaire as well in those days. But anyway, one of his major pieces was, you need to get over there now. We need you, because you don't want to see Jerry, the Hun, coming down your street with bayonets with your wives and kids in the way. So here we go. And hence then all these people went marching off to war with a joyful attitude. We're saving our wives and kids, etc., etc. But the point remains is that the propaganda, the reason for the war, was because Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, whoever the hell he was assassinated in Sarajevo, and was the cause of World War I, which was caused really by him dying, giving an excuse to the European imperial alliances into a great quarrel between those nations, which really was an excuse to kill, in my opinion, millions of men in Germany and all the Allied forces as well. So, but anyway, that would need another book to describe these armchair warriors who caused all of this, who were even how grossly incompetent and callous about human life they were. But they're all dead now, so sans furiant to that lot. The centenary of the Battle of the Somme and my grandfather killed in action provided me with the inspiration to write this book. Also, I am an ex-sapper, combat engineer grade 1, senior NCO, and having worked underground myself in compressed air conditions, I have a glimpse of how it must have been terrifying to be digging like a silent mole, because you had to be silent, because everybody has listening devices, and anybody hears a listening device, before you know it, the whole tunnel is on top of you and you've gone. And all this you can read about in my book, Beneath the Poppy Fields. And the link to this will be in the comment section of this vid. Thank you very much. Thank you.